What's going on? Welcome back to our course on Psalm 23. We're going to jump right into session 3, and we're going to look at verse 5. Verse 5 says, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows." Again, this is personal language that David is using because he has had experiential knowledge of God like this in his life. And verse 5 is it kind of switches here. It went from "you lead me," da da da, blah blah blah. We read that, and then it transfers to "you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." Now, David is using this language to depict God as a royal host, and when somebody was weary from traveling, i.e., the dark valley that he was just in verse 4, right? A host in the near maybe eastern area, when they would host people for long journeys, they would sit them at a table as a guest of honor, and put oil on their head as a almost like it was an honoring thing. They would put oil on their head. They would be refreshed. They would be soothed from their weary travels, as David was from the dark valley. He's been led by God. He's walking through seasons of life. He's following the shepherd, and he depicts the Lord as a royal host, bringing him in, sitting him at his table, and this represents divine favor, refreshing, validation, and this is one of my favorite verses because, man, he didn't prepare a table in the absence of David's enemies. He prepared a table right there in front of everyone. And David is seeing God now as, there's still an underscore of a shepherd here, but he is describing God as a host as well. And I love this because he pours oil on David's head, not by removing the enemies, but by calling them closer in his presence. And so this is what I think about. When we're feeling like we need validation in life, and we feel like, man, maybe our reputation is not what we like it to be. Maybe, we're feeling a lot of backlash from friends that we thought were friends, and whatever can be used for this scenario. Yeah, we find ourselves almost not wanting to be close to our enemies but far away, right? But God says, no. You sit right here, and I'm calling every single enemy, internally, externally, and I want to sit their tails right here in this chair so they can see me. Interesting how somebody pours oil, they get behind you and pour oil, right? If you're sitting at a table, it'd be hard to have the person on the table pouring oil, right? Weird. But he sits behind you as everybody else is watching you get oil put on your head as a validation to who God is to you. And he is not only delivering you from the enemy, not only protecting you from what may come, he is also validating you before your enemies that may seem oppressive, that may seem like some people in life, whether you have a big following, small following, there's just some people that just hate on you sometimes, right? I know it's just life, but sometimes it can be over the top. And sometimes you find yourself in certain situations that, man, this is really tough, Lord. This is really, really, really tough. Maybe they're not external enemies. Maybe they're internal. Maybe they're lust. Maybe they're greed. Maybe it's pornography. Maybe it's envy. Whatever it may be, fill in the blank. He says, hey, come here and sit down. I'm going to make sure I validate my son in your midst. Man, this is so powerful because when God does this, he's not necessarily doing it for you. He's doing it so that you can see his involvement by bringing people to the table that he knows not really interested or for you. The internal enemies who wants to steal, kill, and destroy. Remember the enemies who want to steal, kill, and destroy you. He says, hey, sit right here. That oil was a sign of validation. And I love it because God invites your enemies to sit and watch as he validates you. Powerful, man. Powerful. Is life against you? Do you feel like you're in an uphill battle all the time? Man, God is, I'm not saying this as some cheesy, hype me up language. No, God is for you for real more than we think. He is for you more than we think, especially if your heart is to please him and to follow him. You don't get the table with the enemies and the oil without first looking at verse 1. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I'm following him. And when he gets me through seasons of highs and lows, he also brings me to a table, puts oil on my head, validates me. That oil was very precious because it wasn't that the oil was special, it's that the symbolism of the oil. Oil for the Israelites meant validation. It meant God's endorsement, God's validation on that individual's life. And so when that person individually got endorsed and validated by God, everybody knew what was to come thereafter. Like this. David was anointed, and it says that Samuel came in and anointed him with oil. And at the end of that chapter, it says, and the Spirit of God rushed upon David from that point forward. Think about that. The Spirit of God only rushed upon him after he got anointed. It's the ramifications of God validating you and endorsing you. The Spirit of God rushes on you and it remains on you and it enables you to do things that you cannot do in your own power. That's the power of being anointed by God. And God doesn't do this in some, mosey Josie rando day. He does it in front of your enemies intentionally so that not only you can know he's validating and endorsing you, but so your enemies know that he is validated and he is endorsing you. It's powerful, powerful spiritual implications that we can get from sitting at the table with God and allowing him to do this. On some occasions, because I want to touch on this as well, speaking of the oil, there's this validation of oil, right, that I'm just saying. And then there's another reason why oil is so important for sheep. So sheep have this notion to have this type of fly. Kind of sounds kind of morbid, but this is a reality. It has this fly. It flies up in the nose. It lays eggs, and that larva that stays in there, it seeps into their brain, their sinuses, and it creates a lot of irritation, a lot of infections, and neurological issues, okay? And that sheep will do whatever it takes to get it to stop. They will bang their head on a rock, sometimes leading to death. I mean, they go crazy because something undetected got on the inside of them and then made them a little crazy. This is the enemy's assignment, to do stuff that's undetected, to get us all out of whack. And we start losing our mental. We start losing our mental game. We lose our mental focus. We lose vision. We lose purpose. And the enemy snuck one in there. But here's the deal. What's the remedy for that? If the shepherd can get to him, which he will, he pours oil on the sheep's head, pours oil in the sheep's nose, and that oil thoroughly grabs everything that was planted on the inside out. It's a healing process. It's a healing ointment, and that is one of the ways that the shepherd will help the sheep with things that were internally going wrong. He will put oil on his head. That's why this is so important, is that we need God's oil to refresh us, to protect us, but it's also for validation and for endorsement when God's hand is upon our life. And he does this in front of enemies, like I said, but he also, his tender side, this is why I said, David describing him as a host, but he's also, the underscore is still a shepherd. He's still talking about the shepherd because the way that shepherd uses that oil, he either manually get that stuff out of him so that sheep can have peace, so that sheep can have security, that sheep can be healthy and whole. Sometimes he'll get in there and get it out himself, and sometimes he'll pour oil. The point is, I'm letting you know how invested God is in our lives to the things unseen and to the things seen. When we feel like we're getting assaulted mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, he is there, calling our enemies to the table, putting oil on our heads. When something undetected happens on the inside of us, maybe an arrow of depression or suicidal thoughts come, he puts his oil on our heads, cleanses us, replenishes us, and delivers us from what we cannot deliver on our own self. That sheep cannot help himself. It is something internal going on, and it's wreaking havoc on his life. He cannot do anything on its own. So the shepherd comes in and does it for him. This is the powerful part about seeing Jesus as a shepherd. So as we close this session, I just want to put before you that I just want you to just take it upon yourself to ask God, man, I want to see you in action like this, Lord. Lord, prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Make it personal. Anoint my head with oil. Cause my cup to overflow. Cause my life and the blessings that you've given me, cause it to overflow. Shepherd me in this way. So I pray that this empowers you, challenges you, and champions you to keep on continuing being faithful, or to start being faithful at following Jesus as your shepherd.